Hey you guys, welcome to another 5-minute video from the Balding Artist. Today we're going to go over shading a sphere. It's pretty simple, so let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to start with just your circle. And if you haven't watched my video on drawing perfect circles yet, go ahead and watch. Maybe this isn't the best advertisement for it, but actually it turned out pretty good. Go ahead and get yourself a circle, and if you're going for something really neat, don't hesitate to use a drawing guide or an ellipse guide. I have some here on hand. I'm not going to use them because I prefer the kind of authentic raw look of kind of a sketched sphere. So basically this is going to help us draw, help us give some light and shadow to anything rounded. So we're actually going to approach it as if light were hitting from this side. And let's go ahead, and the parts of a curved surface kind of make up your core shadow, which is the part that's going to get very little to no light. And it's going to look something like that. Going to be this area, and I'm just going to go ahead and go in pretty rough to start, and then you'll start to see how we can blend it a little bit. This video I may have to kind of speed up somewhere in the middle, and if that's the case I'll just go ahead and fast forward it for you a little bit. Alright, and that's going to be our core shadow, so that's going to be the darkest. I'm casting some pretty aggressive shadows tonight with my lighting. Right here you're going to get a little bit of this area is going to be your highlight, and that's going to be the lightest area. This spot down here that we didn't cover in with the core shadow, this is what we usually call a rim light. And that's caused from light bouncing off of other things. Generally, the surface underneath here, there's some light coming down, bouncing off, and hitting this underneath side. So you're actually a lot of times going to have some from under here as well. But it really depends on kind of your lighting source and how complicated you want to get with it. And then basically you have like your mid-tones. All of this in between is going to be some kind of mid-tone range. So if this is your white, this is kind of your gradient over here to your dark, and then this backside is going to be somewhere in between the two. So let's go ahead and see kind of what this looks like. This is probably where I'm going to speed it up a lot, but I'm just going to go through, and you'll see I tend not to color. This is a technique called cross-hatching, which I hope to have a separate video on sometime in the future. But where you kind of color in all different directions to give it kind of this blurred effect, so that you don't really have to pay super close attention to where you're shading. All right, you guys, so if I slow it back down, the actual time on the clock is about 10 minutes. So without this being sped up, this little sketch took me about 10 minutes. Not bad for a practice round. I like to go around the outside and kind of punch that edge. What happens visually as you look across these is you're seeing the surface. Along the surface, you're seeing a lot of different, you're basically seeing that surface compacted on top of each other. So you'll actually get a pretty dark rim most of the time. Along its top edge, you may get a little bit of a highlight off of there, which will be pure white. But for the most part, it'll actually compress to a pretty good solid line, which is part of the reason why we think we see a lot of like dark lines around everything. When it's a round surface, that's actually kind of true, but most of the time it's just a trick of the light. So you'll notice that it's still a little bit choppy. I still have a lot of blending that I could do, but I think it demonstrates how you can start to get this really round form with your highlight, your dark shadow with a little bit of lightness along this rim edge. And then punch the outline just a little bit so that everyone can see kind of where it starts and stops. I would still go over this quite a bit and just kind of blend in some of my pencil marks from different angles. This kind of the cross-hatching method takes a little bit, but it gets you a pretty decent blending. I could also use a softer pencil to blend a little bit better that way. Sorry if this one ended up a little bit longer than 5 minutes. Hopefully not, but it depends on how much I feel like I can speed up that center portion. So hope you have a good one, and we'll be back with more shading of other primitives in the future. Thank you so much, and you got this.